Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd make a fun little Valentine card using some of the new images from the Lawn Fawn collection. So let's start off with the large Slimline with sliders die set, and I'm going to take that largest rectangle. And for paper I'm using the Lawn Fawn Sparkle Cardstock in the Pixie Dust. And this has this beautiful sparkle, glittery texture to it. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through the die cutting machine. And it's a little bit long for my machine, so I'm just going to slide it down a little bit here and then just run that bottom section through one more time. Now to create the card base, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock, and I've placed that in my We Are Memory Keepers trim and scoreboard, and I've cut that to 8.5 by 7 inches, and I'm scoring at 3.5 inches. So that will give us a standard slimline card that measures 3.5 by 8.5. So I'll go ahead and fold that, and then I'll just press out that fold with my bone folder. And then that sparkle cardstock panel we die cut will sit right on top of the card base. So now I've got my Watercolor Wishes Petite paper pack from Lawn Fawn, and we're going to grab a few different colors here. We're going to be using that polka dot, which is going to tie all of the colors together here. It's got all these different colors. So we're going to use the blue and kind of this pinky coral color, and then the yellows. And what I really like about these is you get all the variety of colors here. So we're going to use those to create our backgrounds. So now for the Polaroid frame, I'm going to the Lawn Fawn Selfie frames. And you can see you get another die here that looks kind of like a cell phone. And then you get a few little sentiments as well. So I'm taking that polka dotted paper and I'm going to die cut 3 of these. And I'm sort of trying to pick up different areas of color off that polka dotted paper. So now I also die cut 3 more out of the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and glue these together. I'm using my Lawn Fawn glue tube, and I just wanted to beef these up a little bit, just give them a little bit more substance because that pattern paper is a little bit on the thinner side. So I'll do that for all 3. For ink today, I'm using the Hero Hues Reactive ink pads in Fruit Punch, Lemon Drop, and Splash. And those will coordinate really nicely with our pattern paper that we selected. So I'm using my foam applicator tool, and I'm going to go around the edges of these. And I'm trying to coordinate the frames, the polka dot colors on the frames, closely to the ink colors that I'm choosing here. So this one has a little bit more of that corally orangey tone to it. So I'm going to go all the way around the edges of this. And this is just going to frame this a little bit better, just kind of bring your eye into the center a little bit more. So I just lifted it up and I'm just sponging that ink on right around the edges. Now I'll go to the lemon drop and do the same thing here. And again, this is just going to add a little bit more interest here to these frames. And then I'll take that splash and I'll do this last one here. So now we have all 3 of those all set. So let's go back to that pattern paper, and I'm just again coordinating those with the ink colors that we chose. And you can pick any area on this to create your sky. I love that it sort of has the look of a sky to it already. So just kind of select that area that you like the best. And then I'm just cutting this down to size just to fit right behind that opening. And I'm cutting these at 2.25 by 2.25. And again, I'll do that for all 3 of these. And I'm just using my Tim Holtz paper trimmer to trim these down to size. Now let's set these aside for now while we do some stamping. So I've got the Lawn Fawn Scent with Love stamp set here, and you can see we're going to use those little skunks there, 3 of those, and then that little heart as well, the flower, and that little envelope. And later on, we'll be using those sentiments. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this. I've placed it in my Mini Misty stamp positioner. And I am going back to that Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And then off camera, I stamped 2 more of those hearts. To do our coloring today, we're going to use the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And I'm using Sugared Almond Pink, Light Gray, and Dark Gray to color in these little skunks. So I'm keeping these skunks kind of on the lighter side. You could certainly do them in a really dark black color, but I wanted to keep them a little bit more whimsical and just a little bit brighter. So I tend to do my critters a little bit on the lighter side. But again, you could certainly go to your black zig marker here. Just be careful because it is very dark. So you want to use the black very sparingly. Just put a little bit around the edges and then pull that in. And you can see I'm doing that same thing here with the dark gray. Just kind of adding a little bit at a time. I say go a little bit lighter at first, and you can always add more shadowing if you need to. So I did start with that light gray, and then I'm pulling in that dark gray. And then I'm just going to add a little shadow of the light gray around some of these areas that would be white. And that Sugared Almond Pink I'm going to put on each of their cheeks. So I did all of those skunks the exact same way. Now going back to that Sugared Almond Pink and then adding some Peach Pink, I'm going to color in that little flower. And I'm using my blender pen to blend my colors here. So these are water-based markers, so it's really easy to blend them with either water or with your blender pen. And here I'm using light green and green and just adding a few shadows there. Now here I'm just going back to that pink and then a little bit of the light gray to add some shadows here to these hearts. And I'm not worried about the centers because we're going to be doing some fussy cutting and inlaying some colors in there. So now those are the pattern papers I'm going to use for the centers of the hearts. So I'm going ahead and I've placed them on an acrylic block, and I'm just going to stamp those using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I'm just kind of looking for an area on that paper that is kind of two-toned, just so I get kind of a two-toned effect here. So once those are stamped, you can heat set those, and then you can go and fussy cut those out with your detail scissors. So I'm just following that black line there all the way around, and I'll do that for all 3 of these. And we'll place those in the centers of each of those hearts. So now I've got my coordinating dies. I'm going to line those up and tape those down with a little bit of purple tape, and then I'll run those through the Sizzix Sidekick machine. So I've got everything colored and die cut. Now I can go ahead and grab these little hearts and place those right in the centers here. And I'm just placing an acrylic block on there, and I'll let those dry. So now I can go ahead and create my little Polaroids here. So I'm going to glue this little guy in place just so I know about where I want that to be. And then I can go ahead and attach this to my frame. And I just quickly wanted to mention that, as always, I have all of the products I'm using today linked and listed down below. And they're also listed on my blog as well. So I'll just flip that over and just use my bone folder to press that out. And then I'm going to add the little envelope to this one here. So I wanted to do the 3 Polaroids, the 2 individual ones, and then the 2 of them coming together. So this little guy is going on this blue background. And again, I kind of coordinated the polka dots because that polka dotted paper has a variety of colors on it. So I kind of picked the more blues and purpley tones to put this one on. And then I'm going to add that little flower to this one here. And then these two are going to come together, and I just think they are just so sweet. I'm cutting away just a little tiny bit from the sides. I don't want to make the frame to get too bulky there. So I'm just going to adjust that just a little bit. You could also have those tails sticking outside the frames as well if you wanted to. That would also be really cute. So now we have all three of those all set to go. Going back to this stamp set, I'm going to grab some of these little tiny sentiments. Now this first one says "Sent with Love." The next one is going to say "Happy Valentine's Day." And again, these are all from this same stamp set. So you have a lot of sentiments to choose from here. And they all fit, all these little ones fit right inside these little hearts. So the next one will say XOXO. So now I've got the Lacy border dies. I was going to take that larger one, but I did decide to go with that middle size one. And then I've got this beautiful shimmer cardstock in the pastels. And I'm going to grab that pink one. So I'm going to cut that down to 8.5 by about 3/4 of an inch. And I'll tape that border down at the bottom here of this strip of cardstock. And I'll tape it down with a little bit of purple tape. And then we'll run that through the die cutting machine. Now you can see that that die is not long enough to cut this 8.5-inch strip of paper. So we're going to have to run this through again. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the die and just cut away any excess here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and clean off that stamping platform there. And then we'll run this through again, and it's really easy. You just line it right back up, right over those openings you've already cut, and it will literally just lock right into place. And then just tape it back down and run that through again. So now we have the 8.5-inch panel that we need. So let's go ahead and start assembling the card. I'm using my Lawn Fawn glue tube. I'm going to place it all over the back of this beautiful sparkly cardstock. And we'll just attach that. I'm just pressing that out with the bone folder there. And then let's go ahead and add this pretty border. And then I'm just going to play around with these a little bit here just to see where I want these to be. And I will be popping those up. So I'm going to use some Scotch foam mounting tape. And I'm just going to cut some little sections of this. I'm removing the backing, and we can go ahead and attach these to the front of the card. I'm kind of centering that first one, just tilting it a little bit. And then I'll just tuck these other two in place. So I didn't press these down really hard. I just kind of temporarily laid them down. And then once you're sure you have everything positioned, you can press those down firmly. So now I'm going to add these little hearts. And then to add just a little bit more sparkle and a little more dimension, I'm going to add these little jewels. Now, I've selected the 3 colors that coordinate with the background papers we chose. And these all came from the Pinkfresh Studio Essentials Jewel Mix. And each of these little jars has 3 different sizes of each color. And they do add a lot of sparkle and dimension. So I've placed those all over the front of the card panel. So let's go ahead and stamp this sentiment for the inside of the card, and that says, "You make me feel sentimental." And I've placed this inside my large Memory Misty stamp positioner. This is a 12 by 12 inch positioner. And this is great for your scrapbook projects or when you have a larger card like this that you want to open up and do your stamping. I like to sometimes do the sentiments after I've completed my cards. So this is a great tool to have for those kinds of projects. So let's go ahead and grab that little solid heart from that same stamp set. I'm going back to those ink pads that we used before, and I'm going to stamp one of each of these little hearts in those three colors. So let's take a look at that finished card, and you can see all that beautiful sparkle and dimension we have. I just love these little skunks. They're so adorable. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.